72 hours after NASCAR lost its greatest winner, something happened at Charlotte Motor Speedway that stopped tens of thousands of people cold. Not a crash, not a comeback, something that had nothing to do with racing at all. A woman stood on pit road with her son surrounded by the entire Cup Series field while bagpipes played, and nobody in that grandstand could hold it together. This is what happened at Charlotte. Kyle Busch died on Thursday, May 21st, 2026. He was 41 years old. 3 days before he was set to race in the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, his team announced he had been rushed to the hospital with a severe illness. Nobody expected what came next. Within hours, the Busch family, Richard Childress Racing, and NASCAR released a joint statement confirming he was gone. A day later, the family gave more details. Severe pneumonia had progressed into sepsis. The complications moved fast. There was no chance to stop it. What made this even more shocking was what people did not know at the time. 11 days before he died, Busch had radioed his crew at Watkins Glen and asked for a doctor to give him a shot after the race. He told his team he had been battling a sinus cold. The G-forces and the elevation changes at the road course had made it worse. Then, 4 days before his death, he competed in the NASCAR All-Star race at Dover. He drove a truck race at Charlotte on May 15th and won it. He was still racing, still competing. Nobody thought this was anything more than a cold. Then came the 911 call. The day before he went to the hospital, Busch was at a racing simulator facility in North Carolina when he became unresponsive. The 911 recording confirmed he was coughing up blood and could barely stay on his feet. Less than 24 hours later, he was dead. The entire motorsports world stopped. Now keep that in mind as we get to what happened at Charlotte, because what you are about to hear explains exactly why that moment hit so hard. We are going to get to that pit road scene in a moment. But first, you need to understand who Kyle Busch actually was, because the numbers tell a story that most people still do not fully understand. Kyle Busch won 234 races across NASCAR's 3 national series. That is more than any driver in the history of the sport. Nobody is close. He holds the all-time wins record in both the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series with 102 wins and the Craftsman Truck Series with 69 wins. In the Cup Series, he had 63 victories, ranking him 9th all-time. He was the 2015 and 2019 Cup champion. He won a record 19 straight Cup Series seasons with at least 1 win. When he broke Richard Petty's 200-win record across all 3 series, he stood on top of his car at Fontana and waved a flag that read 200 wins. He started racing at 13. By 16, he was making his truck debut. Kurt Busch famously told reporters back in 2001, "You think I'm a pretty good race car driver? Wait until you see my brother." The nickname Rowdy followed shortly after. It fit him perfectly. People either loved Kyle Busch or they could not stand him. He was aggressive. He said exactly what he thought. He drove like every race was his last chance to prove something. That polarizing personality made him one of the most watched drivers in the sport for 2 decades. And none of that is why Charlotte broke people. Remember what the NASCAR CEO said, "What we will miss most is not the wins." The tribute started before Sunday even arrived. On Friday, Charlotte Motor Speedway put Busch's image on the giant jumbotron above the track. Cars across the garage rolled out with 51 Rowdy 1985 to 2026 stickers and Kyle Busch 8 decals on them. That sticker, the number 51, was a callback to his truck number at Kyle Busch Motorsports, the team he owned and used to develop young talent for years. Daniel Suarez showed up to media rounds wearing Kyle Busch gear. William Byron wore a Kyle Busch Motorsports shirt. Byron had 7 of his 8 Craftsman Truck Series wins come through Busch's team. Richard Childress Racing unloaded Busch's number 8 Chevrolet from the hauler on Saturday morning. The whole garage stood and watched in silence as crew members pushed that car through without its driver. Austin Hill was the one who drove it that weekend. The car number had already been changed to number 33. RCR made a public announcement. The number 8 is retired. If Brexton Busch, Kyle's 11-year-old son, ever wants to race in NASCAR, the number will be waiting for him. That detail alone crushed people. An 11-year-old boy, a number held in reserve, waiting. Now here is where the Charlotte moment happened. The one that caused grown men in those grandstands to break down. The one that nobody who watched it will forget. Before the Coca-Cola 600 green flag on Sunday evening, NASCAR held a pre-race ceremony on pit road. The entire Cup Series field was there. Team owners, drivers, crew members, and then the Busch family walked out. This was their first public appearance since Thursday. Samantha Busch, her son Brexton, her daughter Lennox, Kyle's brother Kurt, their parents. Richard Childress stood beside them. NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell stood at the front. Fans in the grandstands held up number 8 flags. People were already crying before a word was spoken. Then the bagpipes started. They played Amazing Grace. O'Donnell stepped to the microphone and said, "No one ever feels fully prepared to speak at a moment like this, and I think we can all agree that this was Kyle Busch's home." He said every racetrack was Kyle Busch's home. He competed like he had something to prove every single race, when in reality he had already proven everything. Then he looked at Samantha and said this, "Samantha, I want you to know that this sport stands with you, and you and your children are NASCAR family forever. Brexton and Lennox, your dad loves you with all his heart." A moment of silence followed. There was a black number 8 logo painted into the infield turf right next to pit stall number 3. The entire field surrounded it. The front row seat in the pre-race drivers' meeting had been left empty. That was Busch's seat. His RCR teammates Austin Dillon and Austin Hill sat just behind it, with no one in front of them. Before the race went live on Amazon Prime, there was a tribute video. The voice narrating it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. He started by recalling what Kurt Busch said in 2001. He walked through Kyle's entire career. The go-karts where his dad had to work the gas because Kyle could not reach the pedals. The 65 wins and 2 titles in Legends cars at the Las Vegas Bull Ring. The truck debut at 16. The rule change that forced him to stop driving trucks because the minimum age was raised to 18. His O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut at Charlotte, 23 years before that very race weekend where he finished second. Earnhardt described the career simply: skilled, fierce, and competitive as hell. There was some hard racing and some hard feelings, but beneath it all, he had a simple approach. You win in order to go race again next weekend. And boy, did he win. More than anyone else. Ever. The video closed with a quote from Busch himself. He had once said, "I know I wasn't the best coming in, and I'm not now, but we'll see how it turns out when I'm 40. Earnhardt followed it with one line. It turned out to be legendary. When the green flag waved and the race began, something was different about lap 8. The Amazon Prime broadcast went completely silent. No commentary, no ambient sound,